Hello, everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Today, we are going to be diving right back into our Kung Fu campaign series, and as I said last time, we are going to be taking a look at something that is absolutely essential towards capturing the feel of a Kung Fu driven setting, and that is the martial arts tournament. And really, just think about, well, most any kung fu movie or anime or really any show that features a lot of martial arts action, like say Dragon Ball with one of the last World Martial Arts tournaments where Goku squared off against Piccolo Jr. And God, it's such a classic fight, and it really a lot of creative animation, moves, techniques, and it's one of the last fights that really focused more on martial arts before they started really getting into the whole power levels thing and firing energy beams everywhere constantly. But that's a whole nother thing. But take a look at so many different martial arts movies, and the martial arts tournament is absolutely a classic. It just really captures the feel that you want to go for with this kind of a campaign. But there's a couple of things that you need to keep in mind when running a tournament. It's a couple of things to make sure that everything keeps going smoothly and that you keep your players engaged. And really, principally, there's two major things to keep an eye on, and make sure you keep conscious in your mind as you are moving forwards. And first, and this is one I've been guilty of over numerous tournaments, not just in martial arts themed campaigns, but in campaigns all across the many different games that I've played anytime that a tournament has come up. And that was spending time describing NPC fights. Too much time, in fact. If there's an NPC you want to showcase, a character who's particularly important to the fight, usually it's somebody or maybe one or two people that are going to really present a great deal of challenge for the players, and this is an opportunity for them to observe and see the NPC's techniques in action. And that's fine. Doing one or two fights is perfectly fine. Where it gets to be a problem is where you're giving a blow by blow, fight by fight, tier by tier as the players work their way up through the roster and the rankings. You don't need to do that. I mean, if you're describing something awesome, I mean, it's fantastic maybe the first time. Maybe you can get away with it a second or even a third time, but by the fourth, your players are going to be sitting there just going, yeah, that sounds great. Wish I were in that fight. And it's just, it gets boring for it because they're not in the limelight. The focus should be on the players, their characters. Sure, again, extending it out to a couple of important NPCs to highlight them and their abilities is appropriate for the setting. It lets the players know that there's going to be a significant challenge for them to overcome, and really by setting up an NPC as this really incredible badass with just this sharp, deadly, honed technique that just is accurate, powerful, lands with heavy force, or if they're just unnaturally graceful, easily weaving and bobbing out of the way of all the strikes coming towards them, and they get a hold of the target and just lay them out with a powerful throw head first into the ground. It's absolutely what you want to do in that case. But otherwise, you can skip all the generic stuff. I mean, really, the players will get enough of that as they're fighting the NPCs, and that's a point right there where, again, in trying to capture the aesthetic for the setting, when they're fighting against these NPCs, or you're extending out one or two fights to describe for them, you want to emphasize the difference in techniques. Mechanically, it'll all still roll out essentially the same, unless you want to house rule something in. But, it's just, in this case, it's flavoring things a little bit. It's making the world seem a bit more diverse, larger, and like there's so many interesting things out there. There's not just the mantis style of kung fu. You also have the coiling dragon, the striking serpent, the dreaming naga. All you can come up with so many different fantasy named martial arts that just sound mystical, strange, and deadly. And it's an like I said, it's an opportunity to really make the world feel bigger And having a martial arts tournament allows you to do just that, because a tournament will be attracting all sorts of people. And one of the big themes for a martial arts themed campaign, and certainly you find it repeated constantly in movies, anime, so many different TV shows, people want to find out who's the strongest, whose technique is better, who is faster, who hits harder, who can hit more, who is more disciplined and iron-willed. These are all things that you can emphasize and showcase with a martial arts tournament, and you don't even have to change locales. At worst, if this is the main crux of your campaign, the players just have to journey there. But and that gets down to another point. While you are describing all of this, and you're focusing on these fights, and we mentioned limelight earlier, the limelight is supposed to be on the players. It's important for you to keep at the forefront of your mind that you need to and make sure that all the players are included in on this, whether or not they are signed up for the tournament, because not all characters would be appropriate for signing up for a straight up fight or a straight up martial arts tournament. Certainly monks, fighters, barbarians, and the like would easily find themselves at home fighting in a tournament, but rogues, they might work. Bards, wizards, sorcerers, those characters not quite so much. And if anybody's playing these kinds of characters, again, flavored and retooled a little bit to kind of fit more of the theme and aesthetic of the setting, they really may not be involved in the tournament, and you have to include them somehow, or at least give them the option to be included. Well, how do we go about that? Well, like I mentioned, a martial arts tournament will be attracting all sorts of characters, as you have fame, prestige, and where there's a tournament, there's usually a winner's purse, so there's money on the line. Not only that, but it's skilled fighters from all over gathering at a single location. And where there's that much talent and there's a tournament where there's odds, there's going to be gambling and betting. And right there you have everything that you need to start setting up the groundwork for activities outside of the tournament. Because you're going to have bookies, you're going to have gamblers, you're going to have people wanting to fluctuate the odds in their favor by either poisoning or spiking somebody's meals or drinks so that they either die or have to drop out from the tournament. You're going to find people sending thugs after fighters in order to get them to throw a match. And right there, you can get these players who are not involved in the main tournament itself involved with the activities surrounding it. I mean, I can't count how many times I've managed to get everybody roped into a tournament just by knowing which character has that weakness for gambling or betting, and getting them locked in with a bookie and having to find a way to come up with some extra cash fast, especially if they lost. Is just so much fun. And again, it's an easy way to get your players engaged because it gives you so many options. And if it turns out that, hey, your players don't really want to engage with that, the players who didn't sign up, they want to pay more attention to the fighting and all the martial arts action, well, fantastic. They've just made your job easier. Sure, maybe you put in a little bit of work to get everything else set up, but if they're not interested, fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The important thing is that they feel like those options are there, that those activities are present. Because again, it comes back into making this world feel larger, and it feels more alive and more realistic. And the more alive and realistic it is, the better you tell it, the more engaging it's going to be for your players. And even if it boils down to they just want to watch the fights and see what happens, hey, just focus on that and get through all of that right there. But that's just the martial arts tournament, and that's just the start of everything for this. You can build so much into a Kung Fu campaign. Really, cloak and dagger and clandestine activities happen in Kung Fu campaigns all the time as well. And when it comes to running these campaigns, whatever the larger theme is or framework or setting that you have in mind, just make sure to make the world feel, again, larger, alive, and with a level of depth to it that will let the players settle in and make them feel like that they can just dig and keep finding interesting things. again, a martial arts tournament allows you to do that easily, because even if you don't really have a direction for after the tournament, there will be so many different tools and components and ideas available here, just because you would have had to taken a little bit of this time to describe different martial arts styles and the like. Maybe the players will want to go off and journey to this far distant temple to learn the Sleeping Naga style of martial arts, or they'll want to go learn the swooping eagle, or the iron fist techniques from the dwarves up in the craggy mountainsides. There's so many different things, and you can lead them into different locales from this big melting pot point right here. And that's another benefit of the martial arts tournament. It even, especially if you have no idea where to go with things, this gives you many different leads. As, say the players end up in debt to a bookie. Well, now they have to go on adventures, raise enough cash to start paying off the bookie, or they're going to have a constant stream of thugs sent after them. Hell, even if they win and end up taking money from the wrong person, that person will send plenty of people back out after them to collect, and then send a message out to warn others away from making just such a drastic mistake. So again, this is a really useful building point, but there's a couple of things that you have to keep in mind when running this type of a thing. And really, again, number one, really try to calm down on describing the details. It's one that I really struggle with. It's just so easy to want to describe all the strikes, kicks, throws, holds, chokes, breaks, and wanting to go through all these different badass NPCs you've set up, but really, you have to learn when to cut it off and just let the game keep progressing. Leave it to one or two, maybe three badasses for the players to engage with, depending on how many players have signed up for the tournament, and then you roll forward from there. But that's just the martial arts tournament. There's plenty more that will absolutely go into making a martial arts campaign, and next time I'm going to talk a little bit more about running combat to give your movies give your games a bit more of that kung fu movie feel. But for now, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. If you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and give me a like. If you've been enjoying all the content so far, maybe consider subscribing as well. And if you do subscribe to the channel, make sure you click the bell icon over there so that way you get notified the next time I upload more content to the channel here. YouTube systems are not always the best at letting people know when videos have been uploaded. I know to the channels I'm subscribed to, sometimes I have to do a little bit of digging, looking through my subscriptions lists, and it's an inconvenience, but it's an easy way around that inconvenience. But anyways, as I said, I've been your host, and thank you all so much for your time. You folks have yourselves a good night.